Fidelity now recommending 1 to 3% crypto allocation in your portfolio. Gateway drug, what happens when 1 to 3% becomes 3 to 6%? Slowly, then suddenly. Now, this is their Canada part of their business, so imagine this happens in the US. Right? This is a very conservative 60-40, but 40 being the equity, 60 being fixed income, and they're still saying put 1% into Bitcoin or into crypto. In this 60-40, the traditional 60-46% equity, 40% fixed income, they're saying 2%. And then in these more aggressive portfolios, put in 3%, they say. Imagine this starts happening in the US, right? They say buy 2%. Well, 2% of $4.5 trillion, that's $90 billion. When you go buy $90 billion worth of Bitcoin, it spikes up the price. Depending on who you are, you have different ideas of how much that pushes up the price, but 100x multiple on that is nearly $1 trillion in added market cap if they go allocate 2% of their AUM. That's absolutely nuts. And they're not the only ones selling it. As I said, Blackrock's also selling it. And it's easy to sell because the daily dollar cost averaging of Bitcoin, stocks, bonds, and gold, starting when Bitcoin was at an all-time high, Bitcoin beats everything. Bitcoin's 107% up, Nasdaq's 31%, S&P 500 19%, gold 9%, bonds negative 9%. Imagine your 60-40 portfolio and half of your portfolio, or 40%, is actually down over the last 2 or 2.5 years. Like that would be hard to look at. Of course, let's do some quick math. 300,000 Bitcoin times the price today, 57,000. So just so far in the last 1.5 months, they now have 17 billion in AUM. 17 billion. Now, what if we multiply that by that 0.02, the average, let's say the average is 0.3% fees. Well, that's an extra 51 million that's basically going to their bottom line that these companies are going to make annually. Now, what if Bitcoin goes up to 100,000? $100,000 Bitcoin, that means that they would make about another $90 million a year in fees. I think Bitcoin's going to go a lot higher than that. I think they're going to get a lot more Bitcoin than that. I think they're going to hit 1 million in Bitcoin between these new ETFs, and yet the banks are still left out. So BlackRock is swallowing up Bitcoin, right? I said 48 hours. It's a little bit arbitrary. Obviously, they're always buying. They've had net inflows, I think, every day so far. Keep this in mind too. Like, even if there are people that are bullish on Bitcoin, there are also people that will hear that BlackRock's buying and Fidelity's buying, but then they'll hear Jamie Dimon say that it's not the right time, it's BS. They'll go on and hear Jim Cramer, and then they'll just be conflicted. If someone says to buy something and someone says not to buy something, a lot of people are just trying to avoid any future pain, so they're not going to buy. But what happens when the banks get approved to start custodying Bitcoin? Well, Jamie Dimon flips bullish. More people flip bullish on it. It goes up. Everyone is going to jump in. If everyone tells you to buy an asset saying that it's the best performing asset of all time, we're buying it like crazy, and everyone you hear says it's a good buy, you're probably going to feel like buying. So anyone that's held out, that's just a little bit cautious, is going to ape in. And yeah, we don't know when that's going to happen, but yeah, it's getting much closer. If you haven't already started buying Bitcoin because you're a little bit worried that maybe we'll fall back down, right? It's not the time to be worried. It's the time to make sure that you have an allocation to dollar cost average and to make sure you're set up, because we're not going to get an opportunity like this again, maybe ever in our lives. We're never going to see an asset that penetrates traditional finance like this, one that came from nothing.